Welcome to the OSLC Connect for Jira TRS enhancement release. So first of all, what is TRS? So TRS is an interface that we provide at OSLC Connect for Jira that contains lists of artifacts. So the base artifacts that need to be indexed and any changes to those artifacts that need to be processed by remote systems. The intention here is that an indexer can pull this TRS interface and be able to then request any of these resources to be able to update its index. Now, who is this important to? Anybody that's using the IBM ELM suite, because there's two different types of indexers being used by the IBM ELM suite. One is LQE, that's used for reporting. So this is Report Builder and Engineering Insights, as well as LDX. LDX is used for link discovery and tools like Doors Next and ETM. So if you want to see your Jira artifacts in a global configuration, it's important to be able to make sure this index is up to date. Now, we do know with our large customers that TRS at scale can be a challenge. So indexers can be very intensive in terms of load. So when we're doing an indexing or any bulk events, we might do hundreds, if not thousands, and even millions of transactions to be able to read those artifacts. So any of these ELM tools are requesting all that information from Jira. So we want to do a couple things to be able to help large enterprises. One is maximize the confidence in the index contents. We want to be able to make sure they're up to date and they're consistent, and we never have to reread those indexes. We also want to be able to make sure that things like large changes, so things like adding project, removing projects, are minimized or at least deferred to later times in the day when there's a low utilization time for end users. Now, this is really what our TRS release is about. So we're going to enhance some behaviors here. Our Jira cluster and performance improved. So how we calculate membership and how we determine validity of that membership has improved in performance. We have bulk operation deferrals. So when we add or remove projects, we're going to wait to do those until later in the day at a scheduled time period so that your high utilization times are not going to be impacted, as well as we've added some different changes in terms of how to administrate this feed. Rebuild has always been a feature there. It allows you to be able to say, let's restart and have everybody re-index this information. When we have millions of artifacts, that's usually a thing we want to avoid, so we minimize the utilization of that. We now have the ability to be able to both validate and then repair. So basically, we're going to recalculate what should be the membership and only put the changes in that membership via this repair operation. And then we also have a forced update. If there's times that you want to refresh an entire project, you can push just a project to the feed, and that way you don't have to rebuild the entire repository and index. You can just push a particular project to be able to minimize that load. We also ease some of the efforts here. We have artifact status that you can check to be able to make sure an artifact's in a TRS feed and when it's last been updated. We can schedule this repair event. So that's usually something we want to do on a nightly basis. And we also update the audit log on when that happens, what changes took place, so you can track and be able to see what those are. And finally, we now have a feature that allows you to download this TRS feed. We have some analytics tools that you can utilize, and those are going to be available on our docs.SodiusWillert.com site. So with that, let's get to a demo. Okay, so let's look at tracked resource set. There's a few changes that people should take in as they look at our new updated track resource set page in the admin screen. Number one, we're always going to be looking for an administrator user here. What we found is that teams have had issues in terms of permissions when they're not using the administrator. It's a read-only role, but we do recommend that you utilize an administrator. If you don't, you have chances of not being able to read certain projects, and so you'll see a warning there. Now, one of the best ways to start getting familiar with this functionality is this test TRS resources. What this allows us to be able to do is look for a particular resource and see when it's been updated and what feed it's in. So I can take a look at something like this change artifact in my AMR Portland project, and it tells me that it's exposed in that TRS feed and actually when that last modified event is. Now, if I go ahead and look for other artifacts that haven't been exposed, so I know I've just added a test 2 project in my system, and like we talked about, we're going to defer putting that into till after we do a repair. We're going to be able to go and look to be able to see if that artifact's there, and we'll provide you warnings to be able to let you know that a repair event needs to take place for us to be able to see those artifacts and see those in the system. And so this gives you a hint in terms of you can be able to check and actively see what's in those feeds. Now, In addition, we now have this ability to be able to validate and repair systems. Meaning this is what we do on this nightly scheduled activity is running a repair on each of these different feeds. Now I can do that manually as well. I can do a validate. I can pick a particular project or all projects to be able to run that validation on and be able to see and determine what artifacts might have changed and whether or not that I need to add those to the TRS feed. So it's simply doing a calculation of what should be in that feed comparing to what's in the feed. And in this case, it's telling me that a couple differences have been found. And what I can do now is I can either determine that I can discard these results. Maybe it's something that it's a large number of changes and I just want to let the natural repair activity happen during the evening. Or I can repair that feed right now. And we're going to trigger several different requests from the remote indexers to be able to get those up to date. And so we can do that and be able to have that capability. Now, the other types of things we can do is we can go ahead and not only can we do a validation, but we also have the option to be able to look at rebuilding those feeds. So there's two different options here. One is rebuild. Basically, that means that we're going to start from scratch. And we have a lot of warnings here because this means that all the artifacts in your Jira system will have to be reread by the remote systems. Now, an alternative to that is what we call a forced update. Basically, we're going to just say that, hey, we want the remote indexers to read a particular project. And so in here, I can come and say, all right, I want to reread my AMR Portland project and be able to push that out to the remote system so that we know that they're up to date. Typically not necessary, but allows you to be able to instill confidence in your users that uh, we have those latest and greatest changes in there for them to be able to do any reporting. So if I force an update, you could go ahead and take a look over at one of our indexers over here, and they're going to be able to see when that update takes place, and you'll see those artifacts being read. And now you can see how the index is actually processing those items. It's going to pull Jira, and then it'll be all up to date. So that's it. The admin functionality of OSLC Connect for Jira relative to TRS. Let us know if you have any questions, and thank you.